let's jump right into one of political science's most famous and, honestly, most terrifying concepts. Today, we're unpacking Thomas Hobbes' foundational idea, the state of nature. It's the absolutely crucial bridge connecting human psychology to the very existence of governments and society.
I want you to picture a cinematic thought experiment with me. Imagine you're dropped onto a lush, vibrant island. You've got absolute freedom. Sounds pretty great, right? But hold on a second. There are no laws, no government, no police, no courts, literally no shared authority whatsoever. In this world, anyone can just take whatever they want from you at any time with zero consequences. Starting to feel a little paranoid and vulnerable? Well, that is exactly the world Thomas Hobbes envisioned.
Part 1. The state of nature, a hypothetical reality.
So to understand how Hobbes gets us out of that paranoid island scenario, we've got to look at the formal definition. Pay close attention to the word hypothetical. The state of nature is essentially a theoretical tool. Other big thinkers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau used it too, but their versions were relatively peaceful. For Hobbes, though, this absence of political authority is an absolute nightmare. It's a baseline of despair that is so bad it makes us willing to surrender our freedoms to a sovereign ruler just to stay safe.
Section 2. 5 words of despair. Hobbes' bleak vision. To capture just how bleak this baseline is, we turn to Hobbes's 1651 masterpiece, Leviathan. In Chapter 13, he drops what is probably the single most famous one-liner in all of political philosophy. Quote, "And the life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short." This isn't just poetic drama. Hobbes chose every single one of those words incredibly deliberately to build a devastating logical framework. Let's actually break those down. First, why solitary? Well, because without some power keeping people in check, there's zero social trust. You just can't form a community. Poor? Without secure property rights, there is absolutely no incentive to farm, build, or invent. I mean, why grow a crop if your neighbor's just going to steal it? Nasty refers to the total lack of civilization, art, or refinement, because insecurity basically kills culture. Brutish means humans are forced down into this survival of the fittest animalistic state. And finally, short, because the constant looming threat of violent death drastically cuts life expectancy. It brilliantly illustrates how the absence of a sovereign authority makes human progress literally impossible. On top of that, Hobbes adds this incredible secondary quote. He says that in this environment, force and fraud are in war of the two cardinal virtues. Think about that. Because there's no law, there's no justice or injustice, the shared moral categories of right and wrong that we rely on just do not exist in the state of nature. Deceit and violence aren't crimes here, they're literally just survival skills. Part 3. The true meaning of war, a constant readiness. Now, Hobbes famously described this condition as a war of all against all. But here's where a lot of people get tripped up. They think he meant humans are physically out there attacking each other every single second of the day. That's a huge misconception. Hobbes' reality is actually psychological. War, the way he uses it, is a known disposition. It's a constant readiness to fight. It is living in this exhausting state of perpetual suspicion, where you know you could be attacked at any given moment. This crucial idea is perfectly captured by Hobbes' own brilliant weather analogy. Think about a stretch of really bad weather. It doesn't mean rain is actively pouring down on your head 24/7. What it means is there's a lingering, persistent threat, an inclination that it could pour at any second, so you'd never leave the house without an umbrella. Well, in the state of nature, that umbrella is a weapon. That psychological disposition to fight is exactly what makes it a state of war. Section 4. 3 key evidences. Hobbes' reality check. So did Hobbes actually believe this was a real historical period? Well, he admitted a universal state of nature might not have existed everywhere all at once, but he did offer 3 key observations to back up his logic. First up, everyday observation. He basically asks, if humans naturally trust each other, why do we lock our doors at night? Why do we lock our chests against our own servants? Our daily paranoia kind of proves his point. Second, he pointed to reports from European travelers encountering indigenous tribes in the Americas, claiming they lived without centralized governments. Third, and this is massive for modern political science, international anarchy. Even if we form governments, sovereign nations themselves operate in a state of nature against each other. There's no global police force bossing independent countries around. And honestly, this specific observation forms the foundational basis for the entire modern theory of political realism. Part 5. Modern critiques. Challenging Hobbes. Now, as hugely influential as Hobbes is, modern academics have systematically challenged a lot of his assumptions. Let's look at a few. Anthropologists counter Hobbes's claim of constant war by pointing out that early hunter-gatherer societies were actually highly cooperative and egalitarian. I mean, they had to be just to survive. Then there's the post-colonial critique. This argues that Hobbes' use of savage Native American tribes is a deeply Eurocentric view. It unfairly painted non-European societies as pre-civilized, basically, to justify colonial dominance and empire building. Finally, Marxist and feminist perspectives argue that Hobbes' whole idea of the solitary competitive individual just normalizes capitalist competition and completely ignores the cooperative domestic caregiving roles that have literally always sustained human life. We're covering these critiques to show you that his baseline is for sure highly contested today.
Section 6. Contemporary Relevance. Hobbes Today.
Despite those robust critiques about his historical accuracy, you might be wondering, why do we still spend time studying an English philosopher from the 1600s? Well, it matters because his underlying logic regarding systems and authority is still incredibly sharp. Just look at fragile or failed states today. When a central government collapses in a civil war, the resulting power vacuum and lack of security eerily mimic those Hobbesian conditions of total mistrust. Plus, as we just mentioned, political realism still views the global stage of nations as a Hobbesian anarchy. And in modern economics and game theory, concepts like the prisoner's dilemma or the Hobbesian trap perfectly explain why rational individuals might fail to cooperate even when it's in their best interest. Why? Simply because there's no enforceable authority to guarantee the other side won't cheat.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought to leave you with. If the central authority in your country were to just suddenly vanish tomorrow, what would actually happen? Would human nature lean toward the cooperation suggested by those anthropologists, or would we immediately plunge straight into the solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short existence that Hobbes warned us about? It is a genuinely terrifying question, but grappling with it is exactly why the study of political theory remains so endlessly fascinating. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the systems around you.